Note to Elon Musk. There's a chain of command in the government. It's a hierarchical organization. That means that any communication you give needs to go through department heads and then the agency directors. You can't just like pounce on them. You have to have permission. You're a staff person. You're not lying. You're staff. Staff cannot order anybody to do anything, especially a consultant from staff. It's just the way it works. So Trump may not know that. He's not familiar with hierarchical organizations. And, there's also the 25th Amendment that's in play. If he ticks off his cabinet, they can say he's disabled. So, yeah, don't make them start talking, because they could say this guy's not right. Finally, don't take off NATO and say stupid things like, Ukraine has to pay it back. These were not loans. If once the Congress says it's appropriated aid, then it's appropriated aid. If it's a loan, forgive the damn thing. And NATO said they'd cover it. What NATO can also do is say that the supreme commander of NATO maybe need not be a U.S. general, and that you can no longer be ordering the supreme commander of NATO to do anything. You can't be removed. I mean, it's not in the rules, but they can change the rules. So if you want to be a powerless, disabled president that nobody's ever been before, keep going the way you are. If not, just take it down a notch and get rid of Elon. It's good that he wants to have a study about what people do, but there are ways to do that. Like I've said before, as a consultant, it's a good idea to see what people are doing and see what people should be doing. They should make recommendations to you, not from you. They know what their jobs are. You don't know what their jobs are. They need to say what they think you should be doing, not the other way around, because you know nothing about the federal service. Nothing at all. You've had people run things for you for your entire career. It's not, you've been the salesman. You haven't even been staff. So, yeah. Behave yourself, Elon. Behave yourself, Donald, because there could be consequences. The president of the United States, if he's seen as disabled, can be sidelined for a period of days. Read the 25th Amendment if you have any doubts about that. So, and frankly, there are those who are contacting the American Legislative Exchange Councils to make sure that the Republican state organizations go back to being under Koch and not you. It has been suggested by certain people I know. So, yeah, I'm willing to work with you on tax reform, because that's what Elon should be working on, is like how to make taxes better for the people. This Doge obsession with people coming back to work to their desks in Washington, silly. And it's not your job to take care of that. We don't have an oligarchy here where your whims, your bright shiny object is to get people back to their desks. If they're more effective not at their desks, then that's what they should be doing. Especially if they're, babysitting their computers at their desks. As I've said before, workers in the federal service work really hard when there's something to do, and when there's nothing to do, they do training, and that's what they should be doing, because these are hard jobs, harder than having somebody run X for you, harder than somebody running Tesla for you, because you're not the COO. and you don't even have the majority shares. You've made these things cooperative, and you should have. Having employee ownership is a good thing, but that means the U.S. government is an employee-owned thing too. The people who are workers are also voters. They are employee co-owners with the other voters, who are now in a majority against Donald. Um, and if Elon, if you continue to look like an ass by avoiding the chain of command, and as a consultant dictating what you want to do to federal employees, no, chain of command. You go, you make requests of the department heads, and then they will provide you or not provide you with the information you seek. If you want to really, really make sure federal employees are doing something, look at Congress. Look at the congressional budget process. That's where you should be looking if you want federal workers to work, because that's where the bottlenecks are. That's where the critical path stops, because they won't pass a budget or an authorization bill. They're not providing the direction required. And it's not for the president to decide what they should be doing. It is the Congress of the United States. They are the superior branch, not the presidency. The president is not a CEO. He's charged with approving the laws, meaning saying what he can't do as what the government can't do, but mostly it's Congress's job to decide what's done. He cannot decree what should be done, and you certainly can't. So, don't make Donald look crazier than people think he already is, or the cabinet's going to be, meeting and talking to J.D. Vance and saying, this guy's gone too far. Don't get too close to Putin, because if the European leaders say, we can't trust this Trump guy, and beginning to say that, then they will remove the supreme commander and pick somebody else. That means kicking the U.S. out of NATO, or sending a memo to their military saying that the supreme commander is not that reports to you is no longer the supreme commander. Well, they can do that. It's unprecedented, but it would not be unwise at this point. So you're not a dictator, Donald. There's a lot of people who can, frankly, trump your actions. You're not a king. You're not an emperor. Now, it may be of benefit to the world to realize that they don't need the president of the United States to be in charge. George W. Bush eased that thought forward. On the Iraq War, people went to the streets, and a lot of nations didn't participate in that war. And your behavior is getting people to realize American hegemony should be long past. So other people have nuclear weapons too. Britain's got nukes, France has nukes, and Russia doesn't have good nukes. So there's no reason, and they don't have an army that really threatens Europe. Vladimir Putin needs to know that on any given Tuesday, if NATO forces absent the United States and after firing the American commander could roll into Moscow without really any opposition. The reason they don't is because Russia is a crap hole. Vladimir Putin doesn't have anything to give Donald Trump or anybody. I mean, he's got some oil. There's oil all over the world. And there are contracts and all that. But they can be set aside. When the Soviet Union ceased to exist, the oil stopped and the pipes froze, and they had to replace them. They can do that again. The world could do that to Russia. Um, so, and they're getting their gas and electricity from other places. So, without energy, Russia's not worth anything to the rest of the world. And it's, their people consider themselves little people, meaning unpowerful. They're not really adding, unless they have their own desire for freedom. They're not really adding much to the world, the world's human strength of the species. Not that anybody wants to blow them up, but they're not worth conquering. Russia's not worth conquering. That's why they're not being conquered. Nobody wants to conquer them. Remind Vlad of that. Nobody wants your country, Vlad, because it's a third world enterprise that is barren, and it's got sheeple that follow an aging KGB dictator. That it's yes, NATO can get rid of him too. They just don't need to. So, and your Donald's worship of Putin is way, way, way both out of sync with American values, and it's not even smart for American interests. I mean, yeah, putting stuff in his you don't have a company anymore. There is no Trump organization. You're not going to win in New York. There is nothing you can do in Moscow because your business is done. Okay? Because when that's final, your business is done everywhere in the United States. So if you want to go to Moscow and stay there, I'm sure, there's no longer any warrants out for your arrest, so you can go to Moscow and resign. If you want to if you love Vladimir Putin so much, go to Moscow, stay there. Or you can be the real president of the United States, act like you are the Supreme Commander works for you, and that NATO supports Ukraine. And the government has a chain of command, and Elon's not in it. And Elon cannot control that chain of command, and that chain of command can fire you. Act like you need to learn a little off official immunity, because the president's not a dictator. He can be removed in several ways. And frankly, if what you do is seen as destroying the Republican Party, there are people who are more powerful in the Republican Party than you are. The American Legislative Exchange Council has got 30 states, and it's controlled by somebody who's much richer than you are, and has more influence in the state parties than you do, or he can call it forward if the Republicans feel that you're an embarrassment. He can bring them to his side, because he has before. That's what the Tea Party was. He needs to, if he gets his band back together, yeah, they could do lots of things, including impeaching you for having a too close relationship with Russia. So you can't be removed for that. You don't even have to be convicted. It can just say because of your relationship with Russia, you've lost the responsibility of commanding the U.S. Army. You cannot be commander in chief if you were enthralled to a foreign power. So stop it. You can be fired. There are mechanisms to do it, and they just might be activated. So yeah, behave.